I was just thinking about a rather controversial topic, unassisted home birth. With my third son, I chose to have him at home, unassisted, which means that there was no professional assistance there, no midwife, no doctor. And there was a number of factors that led me to make that decision. With my first son, I was totally lost. I was really fortunate to kind of stumble into a midwife-run clinic, and they offered classes on how to take care of a newborn, and they highly encouraged non-intervention during the birth process, so no pain meds or Pitocin or any kind of chemical or pharmaceutical intervention in that way, which was really fortunate because I was totally clueless. I was very, very scared. The whole idea of childbirth was very intimidating and scary to me. So I was really fortunate to find them. And that birth process went a lot better than it could have, considering my ignorance. I didn't have any pain meds. I didn't have any. They didn't induce labor with Pitocin or anything, and they informed me too. They educated me as why you don't want to have the epidural. You know what that can do to a woman psychologically. I mean, if they give a deer or a goat an epidural during birth, they will reject their young. They will not take care of their baby. So there's a lot of psychological and emotional stuff that we really don't realize happens. That's kind of part of the pain. That pain is necessary. It's there for a reason. So I got an education in that way. I was really lucky. So with my second, I gave birth in the hospital again, but this time it was a whole different experience. It was a totally allopathic, conventional medical treatment. Awful. Totally awful. Very condescending. They, against my better judgment, I allowed them to induce labor 4 days before the baby was even due. They told me all kinds of things to scare me, like, oh, your baby's too small and stuff like that. But in retrospect, actually later on, after I researched it, I found out there was no way for them to even know that, to possibly know that. So saying that was, I think, pretty unethical, in my opinion. It was for their convenience. I found out later on also that most problems for babies at birth are due to premature birth, and that most premature birth in this country happens because they induce labor. So most of the health problems in this country due to premature birth are due to doctors inducing labor. Not cool. Of course, I didn't know all this at that time. I knew enough to know that I really didn't want the conventional birth, but I wasn't confident. I was pretty scared. I didn't know enough to make another decision. And plus, if you want to have a midwife at home, that's pricey. And our insurance did not cover that. I mean, that would have been at least $2,000 right there. And there's no guarantee that she's going to show up. So I was like, well, we'll just go with what the insurance covers. And in retrospect, I really wish I didn't, because the Pitocin is synthetic oxytocin. And oxytocin is the hormone that makes it so that you fall in love with your baby and that your baby falls in love with you. And that's a peak experience in life. The oxytocin never, ever, ever flows as intensely as that time when you're giving birth for a woman. And actually men will never, ever experience that level of oxytocin, that love. And for my second born, the Pitocin does the mechanical work of oxytocin, meaning that it contributes to the contraction of the uterus to push the baby out, but it doesn't give you that love. It doesn't give you that love feeling or that bonding. And I had tremendous feelings of guilt and remorse over that birth experience, the way it went, the way I caved, to the fear that they tried to instill in me, and it worked. So with the third one, I knew I didn't want to have that experience again. So I started looking into midwives, but it's the same thing. It's the price. It's like, gosh, there's no guarantee they're going to come, first of all, and if everything goes well, why do you even need a midwife? If something goes wrong, you need to go to the doctor, you need to go to the hospital anyway. So I started looking into unassisted home birth. And I read several books. There's one, Unassisted Homebirth, An Act of Love, which is an excellent book. It gives many testimonials, people's experiences. I thought that was awesome. Another book, Spiritual Midwifery. It's not about unassisted home birth, but again, it has many testimonials about having your baby at home, having the husband be a part of it instead of being kind of left off to the side, like powerless. I'm not a man, so I can't really comment on that, but I can imagine how emasculating that is. And I know when we had David at home, Paul said that he felt it was just like a whole different experience, so much more like he belonged there, like he's important, He said at the hospital he couldn't wait to get out of there because he's just kind of a decoration. Okay, now we're going to do this to your wife, now we're going to do that to your wife, now we're going to take your wife here. And so he had a lot better experience at home. Basically, I wanted to break out of the paradigm of fear. I didn't want to make my decision based on fear. The fact is that having a baby at home is perfectly safe. If you're healthy, it's perfectly safe. If you don't have a high-risk pregnancy, like if you're not obese or have diabetes or have other kinds of sicknesses, if you don't have a history of illness that might complicate the pregnancy, if you take care of yourself, if you exercise. Actually, even if you don't take care of yourself all that well and you don't exercise, it's still relatively safer, statistically, than going to the hospital. Going to the hospital